what's up, guys? Welcome back to your favorite moment on YouTube during the week. We're going to go over week 2 of our December series, which is Christmas, celebrating Jesus, God's greatest gift. This week, we're looking at the story of Elizabeth and Zachariah, as well as Mary. You guys know the story, so I won't tell you all about it. But the bottom line is this: anything is possible with God. Zachariah and Elizabeth were way too old to have kids, but God gave them John the Baptist. Mary had never been with someone, so it was impossible for her to become pregnant. But God made things happen because He had a plan, and nothing stops God's plan for us. He always has a plan, and nothing is impossible for God. And so God brought His promise into fruition, overcoming the impossible situations. And many times we ourselves and our kids, we face what we feel like are impossible situations, and sometimes they are impossible situations. But through the Christmas story, we are reminded every single year that nothing is impossible for God. So this is the bottom line of the lesson. This is the point that you're going to be making every activity during Sunday. So that's the story. Debbie will be preaching because my wife and I will not be here. We will be out of town celebrating our 22nd or 23rd anniversary, and so I won't be here. But I know you guys will be able to do just fine. You guys probably won't even miss me. It might even go a little better than it usually does. But Debbie's going to be teaching, and the only announcement I have is, as a small group leader, what we're doing on Sundays with Erica, assigning many of the middle schoolers a placement on one of the areas where the Legos or the games or the outside area. That doesn't really apply to you specifically. As a small group leader, your job is to show up and get your room, your environment ready to go for small groups. And after that, then you can do what you want. But let's not forget one of the main reasons we have free time. It's so that we as leaders can interact with our kids on a little less informal way. Just chatting with them and talking to them specifically and personally about something that happened in their life or what last week was like for them. Because sometimes it's hard to do that in the group setting because now we're managing the group. But free time gives us the opportunity to just sit one-on-one, say, hey, how are you doing? And prove to them that we're glad they're there. Prove to them that we care about what they care about, and we know what is important to them. And so, as a small group leader, feel free to just go to your rooms, prep your rooms, get your rooms ready. But if you have a chance, find some ways to interact with kids in your small group during free time. So, with all that, we're going to jump right into small group activities. For the older kids, the first activity is called the dumbbell challenge. Now, your binder recommends that you give a dumbbell to each kid. We're not doing that. So this is what we're going to do. The dumbbells are going to be water bottles, just like the binder says. They will be taped together, minus the water, of course. But before you tape them together, there will be bells placed in each one. 10 bells of each color. Now this will be all done beforehand, so you don't have to do it, but they'll look like this inside your boxes with different colored bells on each side. And they're all gonna be shaken up. And instead of giving each kid one, you're gonna have one kid at a time do the dumbbell challenge, which is take all the red bells and get them on one side and all the gold bells on the other side. And you're gonna give them a time frame to do it in. And so it's not easy. Some might even say it's impossible, but that's kind of the point of the whole activity. So you give each kid a chance to do it, and then you talk to them about it afterwards. Say, hey, how'd you feel about this? And many of them are gonna say, it was impossible. There's no way it could have happened, especially in the time frame you gave them. Maybe if you gave them some more time, they might be able to eventually get it. But the point is, it's impossible. And the point of this is to get to that point of feeling impossible. And then you ask them, have you ever tried to do something that seemed impossible? Like maybe you're trying to learn a new instrument, or maybe trying to figure out a math problem, or maybe you just had something going on at the house that you just felt was impossible to fix. We've all hit those moments. But from today's story, we're reminded that anything is possible with God. So whenever we find ourselves facing what feels like an impossible situation, we should look to God. We should ask God for help. We should ask God to show us what we should do. And we should just let God do the impossible for us. And so if you have a story, like a personal testimony of a moment when God did this for you, when something seemed impossible or completely out of reach for you, but then God made something happen and brought it all to pass, tell that story. Because the Bible stories are great. It's God's word. It's living and active, and it's going to stick with them. But when our kids can hear your story, and they can see that it's not just what's in the book that's true and can be trusted, but it's working in your life. And your experience with God's word produce something, and it can be trusted. And so testimonies are huge. Never underestimate the power of your testimonies. Tell your stories. And if you got one of an impossible situation, tell that story this Sunday. The next activity is called Verse Dance, and this is our memory verse activity. And so what you're going to be doing is you're going to be dancing. So you're going to need a phone. I have Bluetooth speakers available, and I will try to get those in here and charged. But you're going to have in your binder and your boxes are going to be these pages and there's portions of the memory verse, 1 through 4. And now, if you had a chance to listen to the memory verse song or had a chance to send it out, great. It's a great tool. I've been humming that tune all week at random times. And so it's a catchy song. So please utilize that. Maybe you could play that song during this activity. But this is what you're going to do. You're going to play a song, and these pages are going to be spread out in random order all throughout the room. And you're going to play the song, you're going to have the kids dance or jump around. Now, you have to lead this, which means you got to dance. You got to show them some moves. You got to teach them some dance moves that you know, and they can start doing it. You got to break the ice with letting yourself look a little silly. So have them dance around with you and jump around the room. And then when the music stops, you tell them to go to one of the pages. And obviously you'll start with 1. And so everybody will go to 1, and they'll say what's on that page. Number 1 says, "Today in the town of David." They'll say this all together. And then you play the song music again, and they'll dance around, and you stop it, and they go to number 2 until you've gone through all the verses, portions of the verses. And again, playing the song that we put in the Lead Small app would be great, because whether you want to or not, you will be singing that verse, that song later on. Maybe it's because it's God's word and it's living and active, or maybe it's just catchy and our brains just grab a hold of musical tunes and lyrics. I don't know. But it's a great tool, so I would suggest using that. But then you wrap it up with just talking about asking them, have they ever been promised something and they were excited about it and they were waiting up for it, and then when it finally showed up, how great it was? Well, that's what this verse is all about. God's people have been waiting for a long time for this promise, and then in Luke 2:11, it happened. It showed up. God came through with his promise, and people were excited. And so that's what this story, this verse reminds us of, what it feels like when someone follows through with their promise. And so that's it. Next activity would be your prayer and dismiss, or if you prayed ahead of time, great. Then you just end with the memory verse song. But other than that, guys, that's all there is to it. See you Sunday.